Welcome to NFL Daily, where we're never stuck on 0-2. We're getting that win in Week 3. I'm Gregg Rosenthal, here in the Chris Wesseling podcast studio with Patrick Claybon. Nick Shook joining us from Cleveland. And yes, Patrick, a lot of teams entered Week 3 0-2, and they got their first win.
And some of them in a surprising fashion.
Yes.
Which I can't wait to get to it, and perhaps a mea culpa and some apologies are owed. But that's why we play the games, Greg.
That's right. I mean, your brownie is on the wrong side of it, and yeah, we're gonna group them all together actually in the second segment of the show, Nick. But I was happy in the afternoon games where it felt like there weren't like great games going on, and I'm like, wow, Tom Brady just had 3 Cowboys stinkers in a row, and then suddenly the Rams start coming back, the Cowboys start coming back, and the football gods, they always end up delivering.
Yeah, even the Cardinals made it a little interesting there down the stretch against the Lions. It was a nice little late hour or late window witching hour. We had a little bit of fun down the back end.
That's right. But we are going to start this recap in New Orleans in one of the most entertaining games in the history of football that entered the fourth quarter 3-0. Let's go to the Superdome.
What a time this would be for an interception. Carr in an empty backfield. Motion, tipped it. Carr back. Carr steps up. Hit as he fires the football, and it is intercepted. It is intercepted by Reed Blankenship. It's intercepted by Reed Blankenship, and the Eagles are going to pull off the upset.
Oh, turn out the lights on the Saints.
That is Merrill Reese and Mike Quick on WIP. Who would have thought it? The defense getting it done in the end in a game where the Eagles had the ball. Like I said, scoreless going into the fourth quarter, 15-12 in the final, and it was fitting that the Eagles defense sealed the game because this was an outstanding response by the Philadelphia defense at large. Jalen Carter, monster game. Brandon Graham played well. They set the edge. Alvin Kamara and the Saints rushing attack held to 89 yards on 29 attempts. In a game where it was close all game and the Saints were trailing at some point, they kept trying to run the ball and it didn't work. And then eventually, despite a lot of injuries, Patrick, the Eagles offense gets it done with Saquon Barkley. But to me, it was the defense who stuffed Kamara on some fourth downs, got quick pressure there on Derek Carr, and got the interception to seal the game.
And that was the story of the game throughout its entirety. This coming into the game through 2 weeks of football, a top 10 offense of all time, the 2024 New Orleans Saints, where they struggled to get to 150 passing yards. The zone run, the Vic Fangio's plan to stop this zone attack with Alvin Kamara, they utilized that talent that we just haven't seen a type of performance like this from them throughout the season. They come in and they get it done in a big spot, but the only way that this happens without Lane Johnson to finish the game, without Jordan Mailata,
speak on it.
It's Saquon Barkley with the play of the game, essentially, with no A.J. Brown coming into the game. They lose Devontae Smith. He's out in the concussion protocol, and it's all Saquon.
Let's listen to Saquon Barkley's game-changing run in the fourth quarter.
It is 2nd down and 5. Do they keep it on the ground with Saquon Barkley? They do. He breaks free. He's at the 50, the 40, the 30. He's going to go. Touchdown, Saquon Barkley. 65-yard touchdown run, and the Eagles not only score, but they take the lead.
So that was to start the quarter. It was right after the Eagles shut down a 3rd and 1 play call where Dennis Allen, calls the run. They stuff him. They go 4th and 1 to start the fourth quarter. They stuff him again. I think Allen was in his head a little bit because he was conservative earlier in the game, not going for a 4th down in Eagles territory. And then the defense, who had just been on the field all day and was clearly gassed. I know it sounds crazy in a game that, finishes 15-12, and like I said, was 3-0 before that touchdown, Chuck. But the Eagles offense played well all day. They ended up with 460 yards. The Saints had 219. The only reason the game was this close and the score was so low was Jalen Hurts had a couple turnovers, and there was a couple fourth down fails by the Eagles, so they'd have these long drives that weren't going anywhere, and this is why they brought Saquon Barkley, and to do it, like Patrick said, without their right tackle, Lane Johnson, who went out with a concussion, without Mekhi Becton, without Devonta Smith on their last offensive touchdown drive, he went out as well. And A.J. Brown obviously was not available for this game. Like, it was gutsy stuff to get them to 2-1.
Yeah, I get a Slack message earlier in this game it was from David Ely, of all people, actually, who said, I think the Eagles' offense is broken. And I just said, yeah, kind of. But what is one thing that you can always rely on? Me, as the lobbyist to the nation's capital on behalf of the ground game, I am the face of this party, and I'm coming here right now to tell you,
baby.
Run the damn ball, because it worked out in their favor. When you lose your tackles, when you lose your top two receivers, what can save you? A good ground game. And that's exactly what happened for the Eagles with Saquon Barkley. And it really is. It's wonderful to just watch him flourish with the Eagles after those trying years with the Giants. But to do it in this situation, where you're coming off of a game where you collapsed against the Falcons on national TV, and you're going into New Orleans, where we spent the entire week singing the praises of Clint Kubiak. He's going to save Dennis Allen's job. Bill Belichick does an entire segment on Inside the NFL about it. And Saquon's the one who he just reverses the entire narrative, and the Eagles get a win on the road. Big time stuff.
I knew we were probably in trouble when I had the Saints Block Party podcast guys on Thursday, and then this game, and I'm thinking like, oh, they should be ahead by more. I mean, a lot of things went right for the Saints in this game. Look, they lost Eric McCoy, their center, on the third play of the game. That was a problem for them. But Trevor Penning was losing his matchup, like I said, trying to get to the edge in the running game. In general, they didn't look quite as smooth. I was wondering, how's Derek Carr going to play when they're trailing and you just need normal dropbacks? And I got to say, despite the score and despite that interception, I thought he played pretty well. Like, actually, their first drive of the game, he hits a couple of really tough throws to Olave on those plays we talked about, 3rd and long, and then they get the ball after that Saquon touchdown, and they're down 7-3, and I'm thinking, okay, this is the first real adversity that they've faced all season. They get an extended field goal drive, and then they get a really good touchdown drive to take the lead back. They missed the 2. They're up 12-7. They don't get the 2, which ends up being a pretty big play in the game. But Carr played well on that drive, hit Olave for a touchdown where he just toasted CeeDee Deuce. So to me, I thought these are two really good teams who are having to survive despite some injuries, but especially on the Eagles side. Devonta Smith took a brutal hit, has a concussion. Lane Johnson was seen vomiting on the sideline. He has a history of concussions. That's really concerning for him. And CeeDee Deuce, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who is now on the other side of this rivalry. He's a quote machine, and we love to hear from him.
They thought they had us on a little 7 route to Olave. Okay, cool, but ain't nothing go over our head all day. Oh, cool, it's cool. It's cool. We got the best secondary, best D-line, best front 7 in the league right now, and I'm popping it, because at the end of the day, they say we were down and out. They don't about last week. Now look at you now. Listen, we keep receipts. That's what I told y'all in the locker room. See y'all Sunday. But I told y'all a couple days before, they got rid of me. I ain't get rid of them. It's still in me. It's still tatted on me. I ain't worried. Come on, give me another one.
That is Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Bridget Condon in the mix, asking him some questions there. Love that dude, especially considering he did get dusted for the go-ahead touchdown. Had some negative plays in this game, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, he doesn't care. He's saying things to get a rise out of other people. Like, that's purely how it operates. Sometimes it gets them yards on the field. And sometimes, people could say it motivates the other. I don't know. If they're not trying hard, then what are they doing out there anyway? But no catches for Rashid Shaheed today, which I think is a big part of what CJ was going on about there at the end.
That's fair.
He's gotten behind everybody. He didn't get behind the Eagles secondary.
Yeah, good job by Quinion Mitchell. Maybe broke up a play early. That again, they got pressure on Carr, and it could have been a long touchdown to Shaheed. Shaheed couldn't take it in. Like, it was just a yard or two short. Those are the fine margins. And then a couple other times where Shaheed just didn't seem like he fought for the ball well, or miscommunication with Carr, including on that last interception. So a different vibe out of this Saints team and the Eagles team. Now both 2-1. I think they're both going to be in the playoff mix. And you had a much happier Nick Sirianni post game than we've had in the last few weeks.
This guy is a freaking winner. He won at Alabama. He won at Oklahoma. He's been he's been winning here over and over and over and over. And you know what? We're the Philadelphia Eagles, so we understand we're going to get criticism. But this dude's a freaking winner. Jalen Hurts is a winner, and he won today.
He absolutely did. Look, the first interception by Hurts was a ball to Devontae Smith that normally would be A.J. Brown's route, I think, and he kind of got out-muscled for the ball by Tyrann Mathieu having a monster season. I actually thought Jalen Hurts did some great playmaking in this game, and we should mention that Dallas Goedert had 10 for 170. I mean, I should have maybe mentioned that a little earlier. Oh, by the way, and yeah, they had the ball a third and long, I believe, or it was a long down and distance situation with about 1 minute to go, and they run a mesh pick play of their dreams where three Saints, their safety, Howden, I believe, and Lattimore, and another player all collide, and it just opens up the entire left sideline, and Goddard goes for 61. I thought the Eagles did a nice job calling plays down the stretch of this game. All right, let's go from one team that was undefeated in the Saints to two teams that were undefeated entering Week 3. Let's go to Pittsburgh.
Now Cordero Patterson moves right to left across the formation in front of Fields. Back to pass. Throws over the middle of the field. It's Calvin Austin. He has his step. Austin heading straight up the middle of the field. Inside the 10 to the 5. Touchdown. Calvin Austin. 55 yards from Fields to Austin.
Oh, that's sweeter than Aunt Nellie's blueberry pie, baby. What a job catching that rock over the middle. Outrunning all the LA Chargers back end boys to the end zone. That's how you take it and stuff it in the end zone.
That was Rob King and Craig Wolfley of WDVE. I love seeing one of these great Justin Fields throws completed for a long touchdown. I feel like all his best throws this year have been called back by penalty or have just been flat-out penalties. Fields also adds a rushing touchdown on a day, Nick Shook, where, the Steelers in the second half just didn't allow any yardage. Just wasn't going to happen. 20-10 Steelers win. Justin Herbert aggravates his high ankle sprain in the middle of the third quarter, and after that, it looked like it was pretty one-sided.
Yeah, it was. The Chargers have won the first two games with being a physical team and their defense kind of carrying them. I mean, obviously, they ran away with the win against the Panthers last week, but they met their match today. They met a team that did it better than them, and especially once they lost Justin Herbert, because then TJ Watt and Herbig could just tee off the edge and just get after him, and they didn't really have a chance. But the beauty of this game, it all comes down to Justin Fields. He's been under a microscope for years, and especially in his first two starts where he wasn't asked to do too much. And in this game, he took that next step forward. It's like we're watching his maturation kind of in real time, not to get like hyperbolic about it, but that's how much better he was today and more comfortable. That was the most important thing, was he looked much more comfortable than he has for most of his NFL career. And there were moments where he got to show off that arm. There was one play where he was rolling to the right and just let one rip. And I'm like, that's the Fields I saw at Ohio State that I have not seen except for a few moments in the NFL. If they can get him like this consistently over the course of a full season, then they're going to be in a much better spot. And Russell Wilson's not going to see his job again. But the other beauty in this was Calvin Austin. Because look, we spent time before the season started. Why aren't they making this trade for Brandon Ayuk? That might be the worst receiver group in the NFL.
They tried. They thought they had it.
He came through. He came through. He came through today. He led them in receiving. He had that touchdown reception. It's really nice to see them not just lean on George Pickens and Pat Freiermuth, especially on a day where they ran the ball decently well, but you didn't have to have Justin Fields try to make hero plays. It was just a good team win from them. You know their defense is going to be good, but their offense stepped up too. Is really encouraging.
So they end up more than doubling the Chargers in total yards, 346 to 168. So that's the best day on offense the Steelers have had. I think, Patrick, that one of the most underrated stories of the last couple of weeks, and I got to admit, I didn't watch that Steelers game from last week until Friday. So we haven't done a show since then. I think Justin Fields is playing really good football. Like, they're not getting any designed runs for him, at least in the first couple of weeks. None. It's all been his throws, and they forced him today to be efficient on underneath throws and over the middle, and he did it. And so for the first 2 weeks, I thought his play has been really good, and it sounds like he continued it.
It's almost as though it's a commercial. It's a campaign for playing in the preseason, because Justin Fields comes in, he's in the quarterback battle, he's adjusting to Arthur Smith. They had a package for him, which is what they were able to roll out against Atlanta in week 1. That small package expanded into a game plan. It expands even more. And now we're starting to see this fully fleshed out Justin Fields, where he did have the mistake. He was looking for Cordell Patterson in a little bit of traffic. The ball gets tipped. 2 guys hit it. It eventually gets picked off. But other than that, he took care of the ball. He had a great read on an option keeper for a touchdown run. The pass to Calvin Austin, there was a couple of balls to George Pickens on the sideline as well. Justin Fields is playing really good football right now.
Right, Nick. He only had 6 yards rushing. He had that rushing TD, but like he actually hasn't added a ton of rushing value this year. Like even going into this week, he was pretty low on the list of like rushing value, which is if he's playing winning football without doing that, you would figure that they're going to figure that part out eventually.
Yeah, week 1 was his most important rushing game, and it was really just to keep the Falcons from getting back on the field. That was not necessary today because he was able to function in the passing game. A lot of it was underneath, but he was decisive. And I think that's the most important thing is that he was decisive. He wasn't frazzled and rushed and had to try to extend plays because we knew he held on to the ball way too long in Chicago. He was not doing that today. And like those are massive markers for me because if you look at them over the course of an entire season, if they stick with him, he needs to continue to build upward like this. And he's doing a really good job from week to week. The growth has been tremendous. And I know it's only 1 week to the next, but now I'm just really excited to see how he plays over the next few weeks. If he keeps that job, which I think right now he's made a great case to keep that job. There's no reason to replace him. I don't care how healthy Russell Wilson is.
What are we talking about here? I talked about it with Damashek on Thursday night. It's like all the people that are there and their sources with the Steelers, and they're like, no, this is going to be Russell Wilson's job. I've never believed it for a second. Tomlin's going to keep stringing this out till he has to make a decision. There is no decision to make. He's playing outstanding.
Yeah.
There's zero chance he would ever bench Justin Fields if he's playing this well. And it doesn't matter anyways because his other quarterback's not healthy. It's like it doesn't matter. None of that part matters. Look, this is a defensive team, and T.J. Watt got after it. I saw him get a crucial sack on around Joe All that was on Taylor Heineke late in the third quarter. Justin Herbert, like I said, aggravates what was a high ankle sprain. Do you think he should have played in this game, Shook? Like how did he look? Because when I saw high ankle sprain, I'm like, oh, I'm going to change my pick. I got to change my pick to the Steelers. Then he was starting, and I was like, I guess I got to stick with my pick. And then they got me. They got me, Shook.
I hate to say this because I don't want to pin it solely on the staff, but I think this is an example of a coach being a little too stubborn and deciding, look, he's our player. He's our best quarterback. He's the guy that's going to help us win without realizing that, like, because he was very immobile in the pocket for the most part, even before he aggravated that injury. There was one play where he got taken down by 2 guys and got the ball out for a first down where I was like, I hope he doesn't get hurt there. Like it's you know what Herbert does? Like he's good at throwing on the run. He's good at navigating the pocket and everything else. He's talented in a number of different ways, but when he's essentially playing on 1 foot, it's going to limit him. And to put him out there at risk in week 3 when you have the whole season ahead of you, I just thought it was a bad decision. Obviously, hindsight is a privilege here, but I just felt from the beginning like you were forcing something that didn't need to be forced.
And looking into that, Shook, because we think of Justin Herbert being out there in the flat, big, making throws on the run. No attempts on the run today.
No,
not a single attempt on the run from Justin Herbert.
I mean, they had then again, like the ball moved somewhat in the first half, and they're tied, and they had a touchdown and a field goal
early,
on two 60-yard drives. They literally had negative 5 yards in the second half. Yeah. I mean, they only had 15 plays, so even that is a credit to the Steelers' offense. But that's 3 3-and-outs where they went for a combined negative 3 yards and then one other first down.
And the touchdown, they fake a screen on the left side, and Joey Porter Jr. jumps that. Quentin Johnston for the second week in a row. A defense just forgets he's out there. That's how the touchdown happened.
That's crazy.
They also didn't run the ball well on that, by the way. Like that was a big part of it too, is the fact that for the first time this year, they just didn't run the ball well.
Yeah, J.K. Dobbins finishes with 44 yards. Gus Edwards, clearly the backup now, only ends up with 9 yards on 3 carries. Let's listen to Mike Tomlin talking about the defense.
We better respond that way. You know, there's a nakedness in this business at this level. There's nowhere to hide. When you got a challenge like that walking in your venue, you better fight. We're the number 1 rusher and rushing team coming into our building. And so let's be real clear. They got to fight. They don't have a choice.
Tough week for the Chargers.
Nakedness.
Yeah,
love that.
Not just no cover, but you're out there without cover and you're naked. There's nowhere to hide anything.
The Chargers, man, it's amazing how different you can feel after 1 week because this Herbert thing seems like it could be a recurring problem, or maybe he'll get better with a little bit of rest. But Joey Bosa left this game with a hip injury. He was off to a strong start this season, and so there's your 2 best players right there. Big concerns for them. Less concerns in Minnesota, where the Vikings are just one of the best teams in the NFL, I guess.
Darnold shotgun, 3 receivers left, but now Munt motions to the right across the formation. Sam looking right, swings back to the center, fires, and touchdown! Jalen Naylor! That's 3 for Darnold today, 3 for Naylor this season, and the Vikings lead by 3 touchdowns. It's 20-0 Minnesota.
KFAN, Paul Allen always knows just the right thing to say. Darnold wasn't done. He added a 4th touchdown to Johnny Munt, former Rams tight end, but we didn't like that call quite as much. 34-7, Vikings over the Texans. Wow, 2-2-0 teams. I'm not gonna say I'm stunned here. I actually picked the Vikings on our show Game Day View. I thought, it's a toss-up. Brian Flores throws a lot at these opposing offenses. It's tough for a young quarterback to deal with. But wow, Patrick, 34-7. I did not see that coming.
No, wire to wire as well. Whether it was the offensive line, who did give up 4 sacks, but on any number of explosive plays for the Texans, they just gave they gave Sam Darnold way too much time. They couldn't get consistent pressure. Justin Jefferson is Justin Jefferson. Nobody's going to be surprised on that one. But Jalen Naylor, adding that touchdown, 3rd on the season. He's getting almost 5 yards of average separation on his plays. And then over on the other side, Brian Flores' defense pressuring C.J. Stroud, 44% of his dropbacks. He was 6 of 11 on those plays with 66 yards, touchdown, and a pick. Aaron Jones gets 100 yards on the ground.
Had a receiving touchdown, 46 yards receiving, looking spry.
I'm ready to say, through 3 weeks, this is the best team in the NFL. It's just.
Oh yeah.
What else do we need to see? What else? I believe they've shown me, Nick. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to take for everybody else. They've shown me.
I mean, yeah, we're not going to jump to conclusions after 3 weeks, but we do have to identify somebody as the best team, right?
Yeah,
and they
through
have played
3.
the most complete football through 3 weeks, without a doubt. I'm trying to, as I look at them, I think, well, what's their stronger, side? Because Sam Darnold's playing way better than most people expected. We know that. Kevin O'Connell, his handiwork there, his fingerprints all over it. He's got a great receiver in Justin Jefferson and all that. But the defense that Brian Flores has cooked up so far just continues to produce. They had Brock Purdy in mental knots last week. They have C.J. Stroud with arguably his worst game as a pro, maybe. We could probably go back and track the numbers from last year, but he was definitely not comfortable, and they run away with it against a team that a lot of people, including myself, had picked to go to the Super Bowl in the AFC. Now, obviously, not having Joe Mixon does hurt them a lot, but I mean, I was a little bit shocked by the result, not because I don't believe in the Vikings, but just because I thought the Texans would put up more of a fight. And that's kudos to the Vikings for how well they're playing football on both sides right now.
Now, this is the second straight week where, the yards per play and the yardage don't quite match up with the lopsided score for the Vikings. Yet they've just been really efficient. I think what is awesome to see here is a 3rd year of a regime change coming together. And the whole idea of bringing in J.J. McCarthy now was supposed to be that, okay, we haven't been able to do certain things in the past, but this is going to be year 2 of this Flores system. We're bringing in all these new defensive players. They understand this complex scheme well. We'll be able to support them with the defense. The running game has been absolute trash the last 2 years. We're going to bring in Aaron Jones. We've learned the scheme a little more. We're going to have a running game ready for McCarthy. Now, it's not McCarthy. It's Sam Darnold, who's been probably a little better than anyone could have bargained for. But the other stuff is all true. They were able to rely, Patrick, on the running game today, and they're obviously relying on this defense, which through 3 weeks, again, I would say is the best in the league right now overall, because they blitzed on 50% of their snaps today, and they got pressure on 45% of them. Jonathan Grenard gets 3 sacks. Did you say that one? I lost track of. Jonathan Grenard in the revenge game gets 3 sacks. Danielle Hunter doesn't get any, and it's kind of about this scheme, just putting these guys in position to win. And yes, scrambling C.J. Stroud in his makeup up. At one point, he just sort of had his hand on his head, seeming like he was wondering what the heck is going on here.
Yeah, not necessarily a seeing ghost type situation, but they're everywhere, and you have to make so many decisions so fast. And that veteran group, they just know where to be. Grujay Hill had an interception on a tip ball. Even when you do make the right read and you get time, Defensive lineman gets a hand up, goes to Grugier Hill. The interception that kind of started this whole landslide of events where Minnesota gets a Justin Jefferson touchdown. Right after that, it's 7-0. Then all of a sudden it's 14-0, and they're trying to come back. But the vast majority of the run game, like Chandler gets 7 carries. It was 19 carries for Aaron Jones for 102 yards. He averaged 5.4 yards per carry. They were hitting on like every aspect of the game was working out in their favor. And Danielle Hunter's only play in his revenge game on the other side was a late hit on Sam Darnold where he had to leave the game. He came back in, thankfully, because that was a concerning moment for him.
Okay, so there are going to be further tests on his ankle. So usually when you finish out the game, that's a good sign. But that is a little bit of a concern for Darnold. Yeah, and it's some of these guys that have just been around and like no floor system. Cam Bynum is in there making plays, and Stephon Gilmore, I think, has turned out to be he's been in Flores' system before, a nice signing for them. And they're just, they're very deep, and they might have the best home field advantage in football. Laramie Tunsil was called for 5 penalties in this game, 3 false starts and 2 illegal formations, and another illegal formation that was declined. I don't know if we give the home crowd credit for the illegal formations, but all the false starts, 5 freaking false starts, like that place is rocking. They love this team, Shook. Like, give me a better home crowd. I'm trying to think who would top them right now in the NFL. I don't know.
I mean, you always have your mainstays are like Seattle and Kansas City.
Seattle.
But the thing is how many of those were on third down? Because they play that horn, which is really obnoxious, but apparently it's pretty effective. I don't know.
Shook's getting the
I think the Dome, I just think the Superdome was going nuts to start that game. Yeah. I think a great Dome crowd is just always going to be better even than a great open-air crowd for obvious reasons. So here
Acoustics.
we are. So we're talking teams here. 3-0 teams. We got the Vikings are 3-0. We just talked about the Steelers are 3-0. And I do think, and Damashek said it on Thursday night, was very like week 3 is going to flip a lot of the things you thought you knew from the first 2 weeks. And that's absolutely true. But I do think some of the stories have been established team-wise. The Vikings and the Steelers, and I would throw the Saints in there. I know they lost this game, but of the teams we just talked about, like they are big parts of this season. And then some players are just different. We talked about Barkley. He ran faster on his long run than he has run on any run in 5 years. He looks different this year. Justin Fields looks different this year. And Sam Darnold looks different. We got to start having to believe. All right, let's look at some teams that looked a little different on Sunday. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to be back with the revenge of the 0-2s. Back on NFL Daily. And yeah, I said it. A lot of teams entered Sunday 0-2. A lot of them escaped with a win and avoided really the dreaded 0-3 where it just feels like your season is over. And that means it is time for the Sunday Drive presented by the all-new hybrid Toyota. Let's go to Dallas.
It's up to the offense to close this out. Lamar fakes a jet sweep, keeps it on the quarterback read option, and he's out to the 45-yard line. Let's see the exact spot. First down, Ravens, and with 1:48 in Dallas left to play for the first time in 2024, the hay's in the barn.
Good to hear the hay is in the barn again from Jerry Sandusky, WBAL. And yeah, if you were listening closely, you might have heard just a huge sigh of relief from Sandusky before he put that hay in the barn, because that 10-yard run prevented the Cowboys from getting the ball back during a mad fourth quarter where they went from 28-6 to 28-12. Patrick starts yelling in the newsroom. 28-18. Patrick starts really yelling in the newsroom and talking about how he didn't get any food earlier in the day. He can't do that when this is happening. 28-25, and then he's actually just silent.
He's flipping tables.
No, he was just silent at that point, and the Ravens got the ball back after Kevontae Turpin cut it to 28-25, and they did ice it with a couple first downs. Lamar, as Lamar does, wins it with his arm first, with a nice first down, and then with his legs.
And it should have never at all gotten to that point. There was a Brandon Aubrey onside kick, which, it's one of the announcer jinx doesn't happen, but I'm looking and I see Brandon Aubrey sit the ball on its side. And I'm thinking, well, I've never seen one of these spinny onside.
You said it. You said, they're trying this spinny onside kick. That one's
the
never
watermelon.
worked.
Yeah, never sseen it successful. Of course, Zay Flowers bungles that, and the Cowboys.
It was spinning kind of funny. To be fair, I was like, it had some knuckleball.
Yeah, Brandon Aubrey can kick the ball 600 miles an hour. I'm sure he can kick the ball to the moon if he needs to, but he kicks he strokes a 65-yarder earlier in the game. He's spectacular. Gregg pointed this out, that the Ravens keep going into games where the opposing kicker is better.
Yes.
And
happened again.
This was true again today. But you're to tell me that Baltimore, yet again, a massive lead in the fourth quarter in a game where Derrick Henry has 25 carries, 151 yards, and 2 touchdowns, that they cannot hold on to the lead. After the game, Coach Harbaugh is saying that, maybe they played things a bit conservatively on offense and defense. And at a certain point, when this continues to happen, when they're blowing leads to the Raiders, there's, of course, the memorable loss to the Miami Dolphins, where they have a huge lead in the fourth quarter. The Dolphins storm all the way back. At some point, it's a trend. But they do, after these consecutive possessions, finally have an opportunity where they just keep the ball in Lamar's hands.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets the first down pass to Zay Flowers, ultimately runs it out. But it shouldn't be this difficult against a Cowboys team that on the interior could do nothing to stop the Ravens' run game, where they've had trouble all season long.
Right. Well, that's why it's tough. The conservative play calls on defense, that kills me. I mean, do what got you there. They were absolutely dominant in the first 3 quarters of this game on both sides of the ball. On offense, it's tough because I did not see this comeback happening because Henry was running the ball so well. 25 for 151, as you mentioned. Justice Hill, 5 for 33, signed a nice little 2-year extension. Not for much money, but nice money for a backup running back over the weekend. And then Lamar, 14 for 87. Lamar only threw the ball 15 times. This was an old school Ravens game, like Lamar's first MVP season, until it wasn't. And Patrick mentioned it. It has been a trend. They have 10 losses when leading by 7+ in the fourth quarter since 2021. That is the most in the NFL. It's kind of mystifying to me.
I saw a booth shot in the Chargers game of Greg Roman, and if I hadn't seen that, you could have convinced me that he might have been in the booth for the Ravens today because of what they put up rushing-wise. I mean, you're right. It's an old-school Ravens win, but those numbers, you're absolutely right, too, that should be a force that allows you to put a game like that away on the road, take the air out of the building. And instead, the building came to life in the fourth quarter and was rocking, and you could barely even hear Brady in the broadcast because it was so loud there. Yet they got it done. And, here's the thing is you move to 0-3 and everything gets tense. And you start thinking about, oh, we've blown this whole season and everything else. You just need one win. You need one win.
Yep.
And Jerry Sandusky just needs to put the hay in the barn one time for you to get back on track. And they did it today. And I think that's really all that matters more than anything. It is nice on a day where you're not throwing the ball that often to see Lamar complete that pass to Zay Flowers down the sideline. That was a gutsy throw. It was a gutsy play call, and they were able to deliver. So my one complaint about the Ravens is stop running Derrick Henry wide, please. In moments like that, stop running him wide as much as you do.
Yeah, I really wanted them to get in the pistol towards the end. They had a shotgun run to Derrick Henry, which could have cost him the game. He slips down, and then another.
He almost fumbled.
Yeah, and then another one. He's trying to hurdle the defender. Cowboys almost got the punch out there. Things got needlessly complicated towards the end when you have the 2-time MVP. Perhaps let's just snap him the ball and allow him to do what he does. But again, Derrick Henry had such a solid game, and this defense played better.
Way better.
You do wonder how much of that was Dallas, because looking at the separation, only one Cowboys receiver had more average separation than 3 yards.
Yikes.
CeeDee Lamb wasn't getting free a whole lot, and it's just so difficult. It seems like Dallas is having to do absolutely everything to squeeze out every single first down, whereas Baltimore earlier in the game just going up and down the field, but Dak's having to make checks, get out of blitzes. Nothing comes easy for this offense.
Yeah, that's really well put, Patrick, because I just feel like Dak is having to be Superman more than ever before. He's making all the play calls. He's having to make all the plays. You see the frustration, CeeDee Lamb in this game, not being able to get open enough because they can send so much attention to him. He ends up 4 for 67, but getting upset. And I don't think it should be lost that, yeah, they had like about a 93 to 96% chance to win this game at every moment from halftime on until that last drive. They were absolutely dominant in this game, pressuring Dak and doing what they wanted to do on offense. And Henry, okay, I know the outside runs and the shotgun runs are a little tricky, but you got to feel good about the positive momentum that he took from the second half of last week's game where he got going to this game where, yeah, he ripped off a beautiful touchdown.
Isaiah Likely, the tight end to the left. That gives to Derrick Henry, running right up the middle. He's got a hole. He's to the 15. Henry to the 10. The 5. Touchdown, Ravens! The train is rolling, and the King scores again. A 26-yard touchdown run, and the Cowboys are on the ropes.
Yeah, I don't want it to get lost when like this signing happened and everyone thought, wow, that's going to be cool seeing Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson together, and it is pretty cool. like guys were bouncing off Derrick Henry today. He had plus 45 in terms of rush yards over expected. You know, who was it at the end of that? Was it Kalen Carson at the end trying to, you're not going to knock the ball out, bro. Try to tackle him, or maybe he just knows he can't tackle him. People were just bouncing off this man's body. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, he had the vintage Derrick Henry stiff arm. I believe it was Carson that was on the other side of that before that play. Then he gets free there. The Ravens had considered, Coach Harbaugh said, making some changes on the offensive line. They decided to stick with this group because late in the week, he said they saw improvement. They certainly showed an improvement, especially Daniel Falele in the run game. Lamar actually ran in the post-game newser of Coach Harbaugh to talk about how Falele played down the stretch. So improvement in that aspect, which is something they really need.
The largest guard, we believe, in NFL history. A pretty crazy notion to put this man at guard, and it did not look good through 2 weeks. It looked good on Sunday, and yeah, just a massive, massive win for a team that considers itself a Super Bowl contender. Obviously, with the Ravens, I don't know about the Cowboys. They're 1-2, and I'm feeling better every week about standing on that tiny table and saying things were going to collapse because, man, just everything looks hard for them. That was the Sunday drive presented by the all-new hybrid Toyota Camry. Whatever your vibe, it's a Camry vibe. Learn more at toyota.com/Camry. So as the Cowboys are making this comeback, at the very same time, another game that we kind of filed away and we thought it was over, and our friend Jordan Rodriguez already texting items about the Rams defense and the struggles that the Rams had today. At the same time, the Rams start quietly making a comeback. But unlike the Cowboys, they finished it off.
Final 5 seconds of regulation. Cardi from 37 to win it. The rookie with the right foot. Kick on the way, and it's a Cardi party at SoFi Stadium. 27-24. Their first lead of the game with 2 seconds left. Joshua Cardi drills the game winner.
That is our friend JB Long for KSPN here in Los Angeles. What a call. What a comeback. The Rams, another one where it was like 96% win percentage with about 4 minutes left in this game as the 49ers are driving in field goal range. Up 7, but they get stopped. They miss the field goal. 50-yard pass down to Tutu Atwell sets up the Rams to tie it up. They get the ball back quickly. And yes, suddenly it's a Cardi party. The only thing that the Rams did wrong in the final couple minutes was Stafford, spiked the ball a little too quickly because I wanted JB Long to have that as a game-winning field goal call. So there was 2 seconds left, and the 49ers got a little closer on that kick return, but it didn't happen, and the Rams get off the schneid 27-24. Wow, when Jordan said that, this division might be up to the Cardinals and Seahawks, who knew? The 49ers and the Rams are both 1-2, but the Rams feel much better about it.
Yeah, on a game where they're losing everybody. If you look at the targets, Matthew Stafford is spreading the ball, like Tutu Atwell getting 5. DeMarcus Robinson, I believe, had 4 targets as well. 3 going to Jordan Whittington, 5 going to Colby Parkinson. Like, this was vintage Matt Stafford with everybody out, just willing it. And you mentioned the 50-yard bomb to Tutu Atwell, where Tutu's making a great play. Tutu had a pass in this game as well.
It was a dime. It should have been completed, but just the other, I think he was bobbling it. It was Tyler Johnson as he went out of bounds near the goal line. They were throwing everything out there.
Yeah, and it's one of those moments where it's a Sean McVay team, and you just see the guys that, because Tutu's been there for years, these guys that have come up through the program, they can contribute. And despite the fact that we haven't seen them in volume, it maybe shouldn't be such a surprise when he's had young guys contribute early on, and these guys are waiting in the wings, and they have a chance to step up. And I know the Niners were hurt, but man, that's a great win at SoFi.
It is, and you could tell after the game how happy and maybe even a little surprised Sean McVay was.
All right, holy shit. Yeah. No, that was what a job by our group. Just continuing to battle, continuing to fight, and there's a lot of guts, there's a lot of resilience in this group, and it's just one game, but I'm really proud of them. I'm really proud of them.
What a coaching performance. That feels good. In a matchup, Nick, that hasn't been too kind to the Rams during the Kyle Shanahan era. Kyle Shanahan, except for the NFC Championship, which is the one he would want the most, has tended to win this matchup over the Rams. This was the biggest Rams comeback, Shook, because they came back from 14 in this game, since week 2 of 2012 against Washington. You know who was the tight ends coach of Washington back then? It was Sean McVay. Who was the offensive coordinator of that game? Kyle Shanahan. RG3's second career start. And just what a performance by this team.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about them being banged up. I mean, we kind of counted the Rams out for semi-foreseeable future because of all the injuries that they had. But the funny thing is when it got close late and they had the ball, and I'm like, it's in Matthew Stafford's hands. And at that point, anything is possible no matter who is out there, and they proved it. And just like Patrick said, it's part of the program. These guys who have been around for a long time were delivering, coming through. It's really great to see. And it's also really encouraging because this is a team that had every reason to count themselves out. And as they're in the midst of this comeback at home where they're down by 2 touchdowns, they see shots to the sideline and guys are just losing their minds amid the chaos. I didn't realize SoFi could get that loud. And then they finish, of course, with the Cardi party. I just keep thinking about Waka Flocka Flames Grove Street party, but instead of it's a party, I think of kicking Cardi. Like,
we got to get them. Yeah, they got to cut that track immediately, because Cardi Party is a great call, and history comes true yet again because there's a crucial fourth quarter interception by Matt Stafford that gets dropped by the 49ers, and yet again, specifically because of that non-INT, the Rams were able to come back and win the game, and there's a shot of Kyle Shanahan on the sideline losing it as that ball hits the turf, because I feel like he could sense it as well.
Yeah,
they really, in wasting a huge career performance from Juwan Jennings, and Brock Purdy only has 8 incompletions in this game.
Right.
Brock Purdy played well. He had 3 touchdowns, no picks.
Okay, so Juwan Jennings finishes for 11 catches, 175 yards, and 3 touchdowns. I know they didn't win the game, but just one of the best receiver performances we've seen in a long time, because it's not just about the box score. It's about the quality of the catches, mossing people, tight coverage, picking the ball off the turf. It was truly awesome. Let's actually listen to his 3rd touchdown catch.
Ayuk and Jennings are slotted left. JJ's inside. Tonjes is right. 3rd down. Purdy back. Purdy time. Purdy throws. Downfield wide open. Caught. Juwan Jennings has a hat trick in L.A. Touchdown! San Francisco!
What a game, and you just could have not told me at that point. It's 21-7 midway through the 3rd that the Rams were going to come back to win this game, because you said it. I thought Purdy played well. Like Jordan Mason, 19 for 77, had a couple catches. Purdy actually was pretty effective on the ground. Ayuk has been quiet, 10 targets, only 48 yards. But those Jennings catches over and over, just going really into my heart. I know no one cares about anyone else's fantasy team, but let me tell you how dumb you feel when you picked up Juwan Jennings as your first waiver pick middle of the week, and then by the end of the week, dropped him.
Oh, no.
And then for some reason, sometimes I just delete tweets for no reason. Just after a while, I'm just like, I didn't really like that one. I'm just going to delete it. I don't care. I feel better about life. For some reason, I tweeted in the middle of the week, Juwan Jennings is about to have the best month of his life. And for some reason, I deleted that tweet too. So I'm just feeling like I could have
Trust yourself.
This loss is like...
Yeah, it's personal.
I mean, Ellis should be thanking you.
That's true.
You made this happen, Greg.
That's true.
Yeah.
My beautiful daughter, her 13th birthday on Saturday was awesome. You feel a different sort of way, literally sprinting after 5 13-year-old girls like running through traffic as we're going to dinner. But it is amazing. It was an amazing moment for me as a dad, just seeing her growing up like this. But it was her weekend. Her Rams weren't going to lose.
Yeah.
Not on this weekend. Happy birthday, Ellis. All right, let's go to Cleveland, where the home crowd did not leave in as happy a state.
Bunch formation to the right. Now Neighbors in motion to the left. Jones in a shotgun set. Singletary to his right. Jones back to throw. Looks, fires one left corner of the end zone. Neighbors makes a diving catch, but did he get his feet in? No signal yet. Yes, touchdown. In the back left corner of the end zone. Jones threw it high, and Neighbors went up and got it. The rookie's second touchdown in as many weeks.
This kid's just different, man.
Yep.
Malik Neighbors is awesome. The New York Giants are awesome. For 1 week, they got it done. Look, their offense played well last week. Neighbors finishes 8 for 78. He adds another touchdown later, but that one was absolutely sweet. That was Bob Papa on WFAN. Deshaun Watson and the Browns offense get the ball back a bunch in the second half of this game. It was 21-7 by halftime, and the Giants didn't add any points, but the Browns did not add enough, Shook, and the Browns are now 1-2, 0-2 at home, and the Boo Birds were out for Mr. Watson.
Yeah, rightfully so. I hate to start with the negative, but the Browns offense is lost, completely lost. Their quarterback is wildly inconsistent, wildly inaccurate, not comfortable, slow to make his decisions. They don't lead on the run game except for 10 carries for Jerome Ford in this game. He popped off a couple, then he fumbled on a drive in the fourth quarter when they're trying to mount a comeback. It's an ugly picture. They don't adjust well during games. Kevin Stefanski has twice now, when his quarterback is under constant duress from opposing pass rushes, he waits until the third quarter to dial up his first screen. Like, they're just slow to do everything, react, adjust, everything. And that's all I'm going to say about the negative side, because the Giants have taken a really good step forward. I don't know if it's going to hold, but for 1 week, Daniel Jones looked more than competent. He looked confident and consistent and delivered the football on time and used his legs to extend plays and kept drives going. And Devin Singletary did enough in the running game. But of course, the story all revolves around the guy that Daniel Jones trusts the most, even though they've now only played 3 games together. And his name is Malik Neighbors. And if you don't know his name, you should know it by the end of this podcast, because he's a star and he's not going anywhere. And he's going to be a household name real soon if he isn't already. He is phenomenal. And there was some serious talent in this receiver class. And this year and last year, he might be the best out of this class. He's just a different guy.
And I think we can. It's safe to say through 3 games, he has been the best of this rookie class. With all due respect to Marvin Harrison Jr. and the accomplishment that he has.
Well, throw the quarterbacks in there too. He's a rookie of the year right now. It's early, but yes.
Yeah. Well, the touchdown, the call that you heard at the start, Malik Neighbors is open. He has beaten Emerson by 5 yards, and it winds up being a highlight catch that Daniel Jones throws high and behind Malik. He has to jump and 360 spin, and we can celebrate the touchdown. But looking back at it, that was a bad pass.
Yeah.
It was.
It's a horrible pass. And Malik Neighbors turns it into a good pass. And earlier in this game, he absolutely goes on top of Emerson and just mosses him.
Yep.
Directly over the top of his head.
I think it was on that drive.
Yeah, it was on the drive.
Actually,
and so, at the very least, the defender got a chance to see that one and watch Malik Neighbors kind of come back and make a circus catch. But he's just so good. And the reason he and the pass rush were the reasons, Wyatt Teller goes down. Of course, Cleveland's had problems getting their tackles on the field all season, but Dexter Lawrence has 2 sacks. Brian Burns has a sack, including a crucial strip where you felt like there might have been some hope for the Browns. Like, they consistently got the pressure, and all credit to the Giants secondary as well. But Deshaun Watson has held the ball. You can't. It's tough to say before we look at the all 22, how well the secondary played, because we don't know if Deshaun is just bouncing in the pocket.
He's just holding it for forever. Like, did you think I guess maybe this is just wishful thinking on my part, but I was like, are they thinking about benching him here? Because it just seemed like he was or was it more about the offensive line? Because the pressure numbers are crazy. Burns with 7, Lawrence with 6, Ojulari with 4. They were all over him, but it just seems like he's holding it. He's not knowing what to do. He even made a bad decision on when to run on a late 4th down. It looked like it was going to be actually the kind of hay in the barn type of play, but they got the ball back one more time because of a missed Giants field goal that gave them another drive to catch up. It just seems like the decision-making process is in mud, Shook.
Yeah, he's slow. Like, he's just slow to make a decision. He's not confident, and you can see his hesitation. I mean, that play that you just described, that was an RPO on 4th and 1, which followed a Jameis Winston telegraph sneak on 3rd and 1, because he only comes in for sneaks, and they run 2 plays out of the formation.
What are we doing here?
Yeah, exactly.
Deshaun Watson can't sneak?
They don't adjust well. They're trying to protect him or whatever, but he's slow to process, and he's also not good at extending and creating anymore. Like, even when he tries to bail out of the pocket, it's like he's running in the mud that you just spoke of. So they can't really do anything, and they're just stuck in first gear this whole time, not to mention that his decision-making is just rife with just uncertainty, and it holds the entire offense back. Yeah, some of it has to do with the offensive line, for sure. Yeah, I mean, they've had a ton of injuries up there, and the Giants did a phenomenal job of getting after him and beating them with stunts and everything else, but it's also on the quarterback, and it's more on the quarterback than anything, because even when he has time to throw, he's still missing open guys.
I give the Giants some credit. They were criticized heavily, Shane Bowen, for being very static, very predictable. And then what do? They come out, they blitz Watson 56% of the time. That's outrageous.
Yep.
And Watson goes on the blitzes. I mean, this is a veteran quarterback. He goes 8 for 18 for 92 yards, a touchdown. But here's the key stat, and 7 sacks, all against the blitz. I mean, come on. That's just a guy he's just not seeing the field. No. But I don't want to take away anything from the Giants here, who going to Thursday Night Football. It's such a long season, and maybe it'll feel long again if they get waxed on Thursday Night Football. But suddenly it's like you look at last week and you think, hey, their offense actually played pretty well against Washington, and if they actually had a kicker, they would have won that game, and now they look pretty competent on both sides, and Wan'Dale Robinson's making plays, and okay, I feel better about them than I feel about the Browns.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, a lot of credit is due to the offense and the way that they called this game, because they were blitzed early. They were bum rushed by the Browns. In fact, Jones almost threw a pick, and it was wiped out by roughing the passer on Greg Newsome. And it felt like all the momentum was just going in the Browns' favor, and it was going to be an avalanche, and the Browns were going to run away with it. And they bounced back. And what they did really well is Dable and Jones and just this whole offense is really working together well, knowing what each person's strengths are and just highlighting those strengths. A lot of underneath passes where you're giving guys space to make plays, and it's, run after the catch, that type of thing. And then you mix in neighbors, and it's actually a pretty nice balanced operation. So, like I said, with the Ravens, you only need one, and they got their one today. So we'll see what happens.
All right. They got it. And a shame, because literally the first play from scrimmage of the game was Amari Cooper catching a touchdown. And I thought that's going to be the highlight with our friend Andrew Siciliano, but it just doesn't feel right to do it now. You robbed that from us. I think that was the last play they had in Giants territory for almost the entire first half, which is absolutely ridiculous. So the Giants get off the schneid, one of the worst-looking teams in the NFL coming into the week, but not the worst-looking. Could the Panthers actually go on the road and get a win with the Red Rifle?
Here's the snap. Pressure off the backside. Dalton floats one. End zone. Deontay Johnson, back right corner, hangs on. Touchdown, Carolina. Deontay's first touchdown as a Panther. Dalton, 2 touchdown passes. The Panthers coming into the game hadn't had a touchdown pass since the Green Bay game last year.
That was Anish Sharaff of WRFX, Andy Dalton to Deontay Johnson. Look, there's only one quarterback in the entire NFL this season who has thrown for more than 300 yards and 3 touchdowns in a single game. That man is Andy freaking Dalton. Let's go. 36-22. I'm fired up about this Panthers win. I mean, they dominated the Raiders The score flatters the Raiders, both sides of the ball. It wasn't just Andy Dalton. It was the Panthers defense showing up. It was the Panthers offensive line showing up. It was something to see. And yeah, you might think, okay, Andy Dalton dinked and dunked his way down the field. Like that throw to Deontay Johnson, I thought was a good example. He made some high-level throws, some mid-range throws over the top of the linebacker, ahead of the safety, some throws up the sideline, a beautiful throw to Adam Thielen for the touchdown. That one was under pressure. I mean, he played really well in this game, Andy Dalton.
He did. He was getting hit as he threw that ball to Deontay Johnson with Jack Jones in coverage. Of course, Jones is going to take some gambles, try to make some plays, but it was good coverage and a great pass from Andy Dalton, who I owe the most sincere of apologies, not just to Andy Dalton, but to this entire roster. I did not think that there was enough talent on this roster to have this type of performance against a Raiders team that looked good in a comeback win last week. But Gardner Minshew really struggled, and this Panthers defense, as Giro Evro's unit, just came in, made plays. Aiden O'Connell comes in late, gets a touchdown, and so now they've got Antonio Pierce has a set of decisions to make. But tough to look past anything other than a resurgent Carolina Panthers team. Chuba Hubbard goes over 100 yards on the ground.
Yes.
Where was this? Where were these guys? I don't know if we could put this all on the second-year quarterback.
No, that's unfair.
That feels impossible, but just a great week of preparation by everybody in Charlotte.
Right. You do have to give a lot of credit to Dalton. I mean, the offense improves this much, and I think one thing he did shook in this game, and I know you watched the Bryce Young tape, was he waited for plays to develop. Like if his first or second read was open, he looked good. I do think there is something to these veteran quarterbacks I've noticed over the years. Like when they can not have to start 17 straight games, but they've had a lot of experience and they could actually play in the first place, which to me is the case for Andy Dalton. When they get another chance to go sling it, like he was so grateful for the opportunity. He's learned a lot, and I don't know if this is going to work for 12 or 13 weeks, but he's taken pictures before the game with his kids and his wife on the field before the game. It meant that much to him, and then he went out, and I think, you hate to be a cliche here, but I think he had like the time of his life. I mean, he was having a blast out there.
I mean, I feel like you're talking about Joe Flacco last year. It's the same thing.
Exactly.
It's a guy with a ton of experience and arm talent who can come out there and sling it and isn't overwhelmed by the speed of the game. And that's, I mean, look, last year we saw it in one game from Dalton, 361 and 2 touchdowns, 319 and 3 touchdowns today. I'm telling you what, I see it one more time, and I'm going to be believing that Andy Dalton can still do it for at least some stretches of a season.
Well, I think we're about to find out. Yes.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it. I'm just relieved for Panthers fans. Like they were at the game last week with brown bags in their head in week two. Like you're supposed to have hope in week 2. Now they got a little bit of hope. They went and got to watch their team win a game on the road.
Yeah, this was a humbling loss for the Raiders to really have it just drilled to you for most of the game. I mean, the yardage in the end doesn't look that dramatic, but going into the third quarter, it was extremely one-sided. The Panthers had 400 offensive yards going into the fourth quarter, and this is supposed to be a defensive team, and Antonio Pierce was not happy.
No, they didn't. I think as the game went on, I don't think it was a team. I think there was definitely some individuals that made business decisions. And we'll make business decisions going forward as well.
Ooh. That's an upset coach right there.
I watched that game. I was like, I'm trying to think about who he's talking about. Now he has some lighter guys in the secondary, Jack Jones, Jacorian Bennett. I thought they've played really well this season, especially Bennett. I don't know who he was talking about. I think their biggest issue on defense was that Max Crosby has a high ankle sprain, which we didn't know about. We knew he had an injury that he left last week with, but he was questionable on the injury report and he was expected to play and he did play, but he had no impact on this game. It was so weird to watch a Raiders game where Max Crosby's just doing nothing. And then suddenly it was like the whole defense just like didn't make any sense because Malcolm Kuntz and they have some other injuries at the other edge spot. And like Christian Wilkins really didn't do that much in this game. And suddenly it just, I mean, you said it. Chuba Hubbard goes for almost 170 yards from scrimmage. They were just like bigger, stronger, faster, tougher. This was the image for Dave Canales that he wanted going into the year.
Yeah, and the injuries for Max Crosby kind of shows up on the stat sheet. His pressure percentage was 8.3%. We're used to seeing Max Crosby up in the 20s and 30s. But Christian Wilkins, playing healthy, was sitting there at 9%. Nobody above 10%. Nobody really bothering Andy Dalton. And then over on the other side, Jadeveon Clowney is back. He and Shaq Thompson above 25% on their pressure percentage. And it's just
love it.
The team, the entire team just played so much better. And like Antonio Pierce is talking about decisions to make.
Yeah.
He's got a full set now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's got to change quarterbacks, but I guess crazier things have happened. Minshew, he was Minshew in this game. He had one or two crazy plays, but he didn't look that much different. Meanwhile, Andy Dalton's cashing them checks with each and every win. Every win he gets, quarterback wins are a thing. He gets $75,000. That's nice.
Ooh.
And he gets $1 million if he can get to 70% of the regular season snaps. So if Andy Dalton can stay healthy for the rest of the year, or he gets another $1 million for a playoff berth. So that would be exciting for him.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Okay, that's a little much. Both these teams kind of deserve to be 1 and 2.
Like this, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like you never know. It's a long season, Shook. As Jason Pinnock once said, I forgot to mention this during the Giants part, but I liked it. He said the Giants have a new team motto. You want to know what the team motto is? It's it. I think all the teams can just embrace this. Carolina Panthers to the playoffs to get Andy Dalton $1 million. It.
Why not?
All right, let's go to Indianapolis, where the 0-2 team got a little revenge on Sunday.
Chicago with the ball, down by 1 score, and barking left to right on the Colts defense. Play action, backing the throw is Williams. And the ball is out. It's a strip sack. It's available for it. And I think the Colts have it around the 17-yard line. Latu with a strip sack, and it's recovered, I think, by Grover Stewart. The third takeaway of the ball game for the Colts on defense.
That was Matt Taylor of WFNI. Fitting in there because this was a game of turnovers, a game where the quarterbacks made a couple plays, but gave the ball to the other team. And in this case, it was a strip sack of Caleb Williams that helped to clinch it. One of 3 turnovers by Caleb Williams in the game. Anthony Richardson, also a couple picks, but the running game of the Colts helps to get it done 21-16. And yeah, Shook, I thought that was a fitting end of the game because Caleb did a lot of good things in this game, actually. They made some progress throwing the ball down the field. Like he had this just absolutely gorgeous dime to Odunze in this game, and then that play was followed by an interception. And he had his first touchdown throw earlier in the fourth quarter to make this game close, but then they get a ball back with a chance to maybe take the lead, and it's a forced fumble. So it was like 1 step forward, 2 steps back for Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I felt like I white-knuckled my way through this entire game because of the quarterback play on both sides. First off, Chicago, what are you doing asking Caleb Williams to throw the ball 52 times? Okay, it was a pretty close game. Like you could have ran the ball, and I know you weren't running it well, but you could have balanced it out a little bit more. You're putting a lot on your rookie quarterback's shoulders. Caleb has this thing, and he did it against Houston. He did it again today, where that improviser in him hasn't quite dropped that entirely, but he also is forced to improvise a lot because of the offensive line, and it just gets wild. Like he's making guys miss. He's spinning around. It's not like Kyler Murray. It's kind of different. He's got this cannon arm that he just lets it rip, and sometimes it finds its target, but other times it's out of desperation, and you end up with turnovers. That's what happened against Houston. That's kind of what happened today too. I feel like they don't put him in the best spot, but then on the other side, Anthony Richardson threw one of the ugliest interceptions you're ever going to see, running toward the goal line, tried to flip it over a defender. He was easily picked off. And then they come out of the half, and Shane Steichen is asked about it by the sideline reporter, and he goes, "It's my fault. It was a bad play call. I put him in a bad situation." Richardson immediately rolls to the right, throws across his body, sails it over his intended target for another pick. So it was just like a back and forth, not comedy of errors, but just young quarterbacks making mistakes. And ultimately, the Colts come out on top with plays like that. It's a fun watch if you want to see like a tumultuous football game and 2 talented quarterbacks. But my God, I felt like I needed a nap or a drink or something after this game.
Yeah, this game brought to you by talent and inconsistency. And you saw it time and time again, whether it's Anthony Richardson pushing Trey Sermon into the end zone along with several of his teammates. And you just see
the whole team.
Yeah, the explosiveness there. But as you mentioned, Shook, Go watch the interception he threw in the back of the end zone, roll into his right. he tries to soft toss this ball that has no chance. You can immediately see the look on his face afterwards. But congratulate, good call. Shout out to Shane Steichen for trying to put that on himself. Because over on the other side, the Bears had a 4th and goal, and they ran the most hopeless speed option that has ever been seen by mankind. And coming into this game, the Colts have not been able to stop anybody on the ground. The Bears have not been able to run the ball. And so we were going to figure it out. Yeah. The Bears cannot run the ball, period.
Right.
It is hopeless. And so for those looking at the stat sheet, and we talked about Caleb's erraticness, he is having to overcome so much to move the ball.
Right. Nick, you could say that how can you throw the ball that much, but they had 84 plays because they had these long drives, because they were turning the Colts over. Because actually, in terms of possession and everything, they were kind of dominated. And they did run the ball 29 times. They got 63 yards. I mean, that is just absolutely pathetic. And they were down 2 scores ultimately for a good chunk of like the middle of the third quarter on. So they had to go into throw it mode when you're that inept. I mean, they had one design run, I believe, that went for more than 6 yards in all those runs. I mean, that is just crazy. And it does point out that Caleb is not playing with a full deck. Richardson, I think, is in his own head a little bit. You mentioned it with pushing the ball. And I thought the second one wasn't a bad decision. The first one was a bad decision. Steichen can take the blame for there. It was kind of a bad play call because there was nothing there, but you got to just throw it away. That needs to be an incomplete and a field goal, not an interception. The second one, I think, was it wasn't that bad of a decision. It was more
He just missed him.
An overthrow because he didn't get his feet set and all that. And that has been happening, and that is disappointing. I actually listened to the locker room sound after the game of Steichen and Richardson. It was interesting. After Steichen fires everyone up, Richardson then takes over and also says, "Great job today, everyone. It's going to be the first of many." Gives everyone their props, but then sort of somberly says, like, I'm going to be better. I got you guys in future weeks. It is not going to be like this, which is just like, it's why people love Anthony Richardson, why he's a leader, just the way he said it and the way people are looking at him. Like, he didn't need to do that in that moment, but you can tell he's not happy with how he's playing, but he got bailed out by his defense. 7 tackles for loss by the Colts defense, 4 sacks. And yeah, Latu, who was my defensive rookie of the year pick before the season, just throwing darts there, but was on the injury report and ended up having a really nice game.
Yeah, he made a big play there. And but speaking about Richardson, these are things that he can clean up. And I feel like he's in a situation where, because of the personality he has and the respect he already has in the locker room as a leader, like, it can get better over time. He really just needs to clean up the footwork and be more consistent in that. Caleb, I feel bad for him, not because he's not talented. It was the right pick at number 1. He's just not in a great situation. And you can see him. I think it was after the second turnover he had. He sat down on the bench and he just did the unsnap of the helmet, sat down and just looked up like, oh my God, what do I have to do? He makes some of those mistakes on his own from trying too hard. But I mean, I just feel bad for him. I feel like he's playing with one hand tied behind his back sometimes. And a lot of it is scheme, I think. It's personnel, but it's also scheme. They're not doing him any favors.
Yeah, Shane Waldron is not a popular man. The offensive coordinators for the Bears never seem to be. But
no.
Look, this is Matt Eberflus's team. This is Ryan Poles' team. Year 3, 4 of the regime, depending on how you want to look at it, coach or GM. They have time to turn it around, but it's been a discouraging start, especially for the offense. The Colts get to 1-2. Back in the mix. And hey, at least Adunze goes 6 for 112. Komet has a nice game. DJ Moore has a nice game. At least he got some fantasy numbers. The Colts get off the schneid. One more 0-2 team I want to talk about. They got their first win on Sunday. It was in Tampa Bay, and it was authoritative.
McLaughlin, the tailback. Nix pitches it right. McLaughlin, don't cut, don't stop. He didn't. He outran the pursuit. And Denver has a touchdown.
That is Dave Logan of KOA. A running back has never stuffed it in the face of a play-by-play man faster than Jaleel McLaughlin. You tell me not to stop? Stop and got me that touchdown. I mean, that was one of those play calls. That's a 4th and goal, and he has a man just absolutely reads the play. I believe it was Anthony Nelson, and McLaughlin shakes him out of his shoes and somehow gets to the edge. You never see that sort of play work in that spot. I was stunned. Good job by Jaleel McLaughlin. The Broncos win this game 26-7. I had eyes on this game throughout. This was an absolute butt whooping. Despite not having much of a running game, McLaughlin gets 7 yards on 5 carries. Javonte Williams ends up with 12 yards on five carries. But Bo Nix was awesome. First play of the entire game, back shoulder throw to Cortland Sutton. Plus 22 down the field. Okay, a little bit of a push-off by Sutton, but he trusted his receiver to make a play. He made a play. Third play, a beauty over the shoulder of Reynolds down the field. Again, we're saying like Bo Nix can't throw it down the field. That time he was protected well. I thought the offensive line really played well all day. And then Nix ends up running in for the first touchdown of the game. Nix ran well all day, 9 for 47 on the ground, and including a nice scramble. He's actually up to 107 yards on 18 rushes for the season. The Broncos were aggressive. Sean Payton went for it on 4th down in his own end while up 2 touchdowns, which I was really surprised, impressed by. Got it. Defense was awesome. They kind of pulled the Bucs' pants down here in this game. It was very one-sided, Patrick.
Yeah, and that Jaleel McLaughlin touchdown was on 4th down as well, where he gets Anthony Nelson to stop and slip, and he finishes that drive off with the score. I thought it was a great performance, not just by Bo Nix, but this entire team, including 2 turnovers from Brandon Jones. One was an interception, one was a fumble recovery. Patrick Surtain was Patrick Surtain. Kind of had Mike Evans incarcerated for most of the game. And then just the rest of this team continuing to make play after play where we're expecting Baker and the Bucs to do something. It just kept waiting. And now the Bucs comeback comes, and he gets a touchdown to Chris Godwin to start the third quarter, and you're thinking, oh, this is it. Nothing else. This Broncos team goes wire to wire, and honestly, a pretty impressive fashion, Nick, where the Bucs could do nothing, and they had done almost everything to start the season, where I thought Baker Mayfield was playing at MVP level, and here comes Denver to shut all that down.
Yeah, I mean, he comes back to earth a little bit. It's like, they always say, got to have a few rainy days to appreciate a sunny one. Baker had a rainy day on Sunday. I think a lot of this story is the fact that the Buccaneers allowed Bo Nix to do some things. You look at their pressure rate, they had 9 pressures. It's 23.1%. They blitzed at a rate of 43.6%, which is pretty frequent, and yet they didn't get the job done. That's a concerning sign for the Buccaneers in the long term, which had kind of showed up in previous weeks, and now we see it bear out in this result here. But look, man, like with the other 2 teams we talked about earlier, the Ravens being one of them, is you just only need one. You need one win to get back on track. And for as bad as Bo Nix looked through the first 2 weeks, it's so much more encouraging to see him put together a performance like this. Yeah, he didn't have a passing touchdown. I don't care. He kept them going, and they cruised to a win here on the road. This is all you need to get back on track, reverse some of the, momentum from negative to positive, and allow Sean Payton, some patience with his quarterback. So it's really encouraging to see.
Well, and they have a little bit of an identity here on defense. If I told you like one of the teams in this game leads the NFL in blitz percentage this year, and it's by a lot, you would think it'd be the Todd Bowles Bucs, but it's not. It's the Broncos who came into this game, and I noticed that last week they were just kamikaze on defense. Van Joseph in his bag right now. Sometimes it's working, sometimes it's not, but it was working this game. 7 sacks of Baker, 9 quarterback hits, 45% pressure rate. Baker at one point was 11 for 17 for 78 yards, so he tacks on some garbage time, just when they started playing softer. The blitz numbers were even higher earlier, and it was some bad Baker tendencies where the pressure to sack rate was pretty high. Like, he was back scrambling around, hoping to make a play, holding it, wasn't happening. Zach Allen has been really awesome all season. I think he had 7 pressures in this game, something like that. He has been really good for them up front. So they're having a little bit of an identity on defense where they're aggressive, and they needed a win in the absolute worst way. They were the most down bad team in the entire NFL outside of Carolina. But considering the way their preseason went and the expectations that they had, I think actually they felt the worst of just about anyone, and they came out and they looked like it. Like, there is something about, I think, teams that need the win more playing better. I really do think. I mean, it's a thing. It's human nature. I don't know if Patrick. I just mean, like, if you're 0-2, I feel like you're more likely to. They come out 143 yards to 23 to start this game. It was like the Ravens needed that win. They came out so strong. Maybe there's something to it, Patrick.
Maybe we could say that the Broncos tried hard. They definitely played better. than they have.
That's all I mean.
The first 2 weeks.
You get a little more focused. You get everything's better during the week. You know you need it all week long, and you play your best.
Maybe more opportunity to find out the things that you don't do well, and to be able to focus on the things and the places where you can be successful. And we're going to have to pull, as Nick mentioned, the Buccaneers maybe back down to earth and start to re-examine those first 2 wins a little bit.
I mean, they had just over 200 yards last week and were more than doubled. So maybe they were a little fortunate there. But you mentioned it, Surtain, awesome day against Mike Evans. Surtain, who had a slow start to the season, a ton of penalties the last couple of weeks, actually kind of been losing his one-on-one matchups. He is the only cornerback in the NFL that they just say, go cover someone with like no safety help. Literally it. And he's done it. He's had to do it 3 straight weeks. The first 2 weeks actually haven't gone that well against DK and Pickens. It went very well against Mike Evans. So props to the Broncos, their first win of the season. All right, those are all the 0-2 teams that got off the schneid. We're going to get to the rest of the games after a little break. Back on NFL Daily. We're going to go to Tennessee, where one of the best stories of the season is being written by the Green Bay Packers. But first, we're going to hear a little bit from their defense.
From the 31, here's the snap. Quick throw, right sideline, intercepted. Down the left sideline, Jair Alexander, high-stepping, end zone, touchdown! Jair Alexander! And the Packers lead it 16-7. Holy cow.
Wayne Larrivee and Larry McCarron there on WRNW. You looked up, and this game just went from 7-7 to 17-7 in a blink of an eye. That happens when Jair Alexander is out there with pick sixes. It happens when Malik Willis is as efficient as hell. 13-19. Yes, he got the start over Jordan Love, who was ruled inactive. 202 yards through the air on only 19 attempts with the passing touchdown. Who was their leading rusher on the day? It was Malik Willis. 6 carries, 73 yards. What a performance by this kid. 2-0. The ultimate revenge game. I mean, we talk about revenge games. They didn't want you last year. They didn't want you the year before. They kind of publicly hung you out to dry, Mike Vrabel, and then you gave them away from nothing going into this year, and you lose to them week 3. That's amazing.
It's spectacular. And at this point, early last season, we had the Pastronaut, Josh Dobbs, kind of taking the world by storm, coming in on short notice. Malik Willis did just get there. It's not the exact same situation, but Malik Willis really literally just gets there, and Josh Jacobs gets under 3.5 yards per carry. And you come in to a world before last week, and you're telling people, well, hey, Malik Willis is going to need to throw for 200 yards. He's going to need to have 3 30-plus yard completions on the way to his first 200-yard passing game with 7 different receivers on only 19 attempts. Folks would say you're insane. You're crazy.
You are insane.
That's never going to happen. But Matt LaFleur believes in Malik Willis. He dialed up a game plan for him for the second week in a row.
Awesome.
He comes through.
Let's listen to Matt LaFleur talking about Malik Willis after the game.
Yeah, I think anytime, maybe a change of scenery can be good for some guys. And I just cannot articulate the job that he's done in a short period of time. People can't fathom it. I promise you. You guys don't get it. I know you think you got it, but you don't get it. What he's been able to do is I've never seen something like this. So hats off to him. Hats off to everybody around him.
I think it's just special. To me, it's probably the number one personal story of the season so far. I never would have seen that come in. And he was dynamic on the ground. They cruised to this victory, but it was in part because he was making good decisions, but also is able to run the ball and presents that threat. And LaFleur is being humble about it, but he's done an awesome job. And Malik Willis didn't want to bury the Titans or anything after the game, but it's not just about a change of scenery. It's about an organization, and the Titans have work to do, Shook. And the Packers, these 2 wins, even if Jordan Love comes back next week, it sounds like there's a pretty good chance of that. you just feel like they're deposits in the Mojo Bank for a team that has really big aspirations here.
First National Mojo Bank. That was strangely combative from Matt LaFleur,
Yes.
but I think he's been reading some of the press clippings, and I think he's been hearing the doubt. And the doubt came from people like me because Malik Willis didn't show us anything that should give us any reason to be confident in him prior to week 2. And even in week 2, LaFleur did a masterful job of building a game plan that didn't ask him to do too much, leaned on the ground game, and he made his plays in spots. And he was good when he made those plays in spots. Don't get it twisted. But this week, it wasn't just making the plays in spots. When you throw for 200 yards, when you throw for a touchdown pass, when you lead your team in rushing, that says everything I need to know about him. And it's got, like you said, probably the sweetest revenge game ever. You mentioned the Pastronaut, Patrick. The Pastronaut is who the Titans signed off of the Lions practice squad to replace Malik Willis in the middle of a season a few years ago. Okay, and now he comes back all the way back around with the Packers and gets his revenge. It's a great story. You're absolutely right. But on the flip side, there was a game break that showed that Jair Alexander pick 6 today. It was a Fox game break, and I believe whoever was doing the play-by-play in the studio called Will Levis something like the turnover or the giveaway machine. Is that his reputation now? I know it's been bad through 3 weeks. How much patience do you have with this? I mean, you got to figure this out.
What are you going
eventually.
to
do? If we take the way that they treated Malik Willis, that's
what I'm saying.
He's only got a few more games.
I mean, Mason, not only did they choose, Will Levis over Malik Willis, they chose Mason Rudolph over Will Levis. So,
yeah.
And that was supposedly a pretty tight camp battle. Yeah, they're not going to, I mean, the thing with Levis is sometimes you get in a streak of just, some of it is bad luck, that the turnovers are catastrophic turnovers. Then again, he had 3 turnovers in this game, including a lost fumble. Sure, you go 26 for 34 for 260 and 2 touchdowns otherwise, but counting on 2 to 3 turnovers a game is just not how you're going to win. There's no way Malik Willis would ever be caught doing that. Let's listen to Malik Willis's touchdown pass, a screen to Emmanuel Wilson.
Second down, they fake the handoff to Melton, dumps it off to Wilson, left side. He's barreling his way to the 15, to the 10, to the 5, to the end zone. Touchdown! And the Packers cash it in. 26-7 Green Bay, 8:25 to go in the third.
I was just kind of curious if Wayne Levy brought out the dagger mid-third quarter, but no, I guess I could have listened ahead of time. just curious. Nice game for the Packers too, who have not been great defensively to dominate the Titans on the ground, stopping Tony Pollard, and Tajay Spears had a combined 21 yards in this game.
Yeah, and looking at Will Levis again, everybody's going to got on the occasional stare down out. Jair Alexander's first career pick 6, but that's 8 turnovers now in the season for Will Levis. He added another one late, looking deep to Calvin Ridley. Xavier McKinney gets another pick, which Xavier McKinney's had an interception in every game. A great pickup this offseason by the Packers. But they just mount. These turnovers mount.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a weird one. He didn't throw a cartwheel interception or something like absurd like he had in the first couple of weeks of the season. But the sheer volume of them is too much.
Yeah, I think the Titans were a little unlucky to be 0-2. Their defense had played really well. Their defense did not play well in this game, giving up that many yards to the Packers, completely outplayed. So it's the running game, it's the defense, it's not just Will Levis. And yeah, the Packers are staying alive in the NFC North, just trying to keep up with this Vikings team in second place. Would they be tied for second place? Let's go to Arizona, where the Lions tried to get a win.
Jared working out of the gun. Takes the snap, he's back. 4-man rush. Goff sets, throws, got Amon-Ra. Flips it on the hook and ladder. Coming inside the 5 to the end zone. Jahmyr Gibbs. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. Oh, baby, how beautiful is that?
Thank you, Ben Johnson. Man, the creativity, the old flea flicker. I don't know what you call that.
You call that a hook and ladder. WXYT, Dan Miller, and Lomas Brown. And yeah, there is something just gleeful, makes you feel like a kid when you see a hook and ladder, just a play like that executed perfectly. The Lions win this game 20-13. Shook, not perfectly clean from the offense, but this Lions defense has really played well, I think, overall this season. The running game gets, I think, almost 200 yards on the ground for the Lions, and they hold on for a victory over Arizona.
I would like to, before we dive into the Lions defense and the way they ground out this win, because they did. Make no mistake, it was a war of attrition in the second half. It was not the most interesting football viewing experience. It was a stalemate of sorts. But I need to know, did Ben Johnson pull up the tape of the 2007 Fiesta Bowl, which happened to be played in the same stadium, in which Boise State ran the hook and ladder before running the Statue of Liberty to upset Adrian Peterson's Oklahoma Sooners? I just need to know, because that's what came to mind when I saw it. But yeah, I mean, this is... Jared Goff throws a bad interception in the second half. Dennis Gardeck makes another great play. And it was a bad interception because he just never saw him coming. He was going through his progression. And yet the Lions hold them there. They turn it over on downs. They don't get any points out of it. And that's kind of how the entire second half of this game went, which was vastly different than the first half when Lions go down and score. Cardinals go down and score. Lions go down and score. And it felt like they were just going to go back and forth throughout the day. The defense made Kyler Murray's life in the second half really rough. He's obviously leaning a lot on Marvin Harrison Jr., which is good to see. They scored a touchdown, need to establish that connection and keep working on it, and they did. But in the second half, they couldn't run the ball for most of this game, and that really hurt their offense. And then he just had nowhere to go in the passing game. Even when he tried to scramble and extend, it just wasn't working like the week before. And you could see him, he was visibly frustrated by the end of the game because he just felt like, what else can I do? What do I have to do to try to make this happen? They had opportunities to go tie this game. They just didn't convert, and that's credit to the Lions, who go on the road, play good enough offensively, good enough defensively, and get a total team win.
Yeah, you look at the rushing totals for the Cardinals. James Conner, 9 for 17, and then the backups Benson and DeMarcado don't really get involved. If they can't run, they're just not who they are, and you mentioned it. Harrison gets 64 yards and a touchdown in this game, but it took 11 targets to get there, just nothing downfield. I've been impressed on tape of this Lions defense. I think they've played pretty well up front. I think they're slowly getting a little better. And then you have the duo, David Montgomery for 105 yards on the ground. Jahmyr Gibbs gets 83 yards. Was also the recipient of that hook and ladder, which I guess counts as a reception, even though he didn't get a reception.
0 targets, 0 catches, 20 yards, 1 touchdown.
Yeah.
What? That doesn't make any sense.
I think maybe the way that they scored
counts as a rush,
because the key difference because going back and looking at the Boise hook and ladder was more of a catch and then a pitch. Amon-Ra caught the ball and pitched the ball in the same motion. They may not.
He chest passed it.
Yeah, I don't even know if they're giving Amon-Ra credit for catching the ball on that play because he got it to Jahmyr Gibbs so quickly. As far as execution at that point, that's a huge ask considering the spacing there of Amon-Ra St. Brown, but he delivers, and this Lions defense, although there was the loss to the Buccaneers last week, you still saw the coverage improvement from a season ago.
Yes.
Where people are running free all the time. They get pressure on Kyler Murray today. Of course, it's Kyler, so he's going to run away from some of those plays. But when he attempted to pass under pressure, he was 1 of 6 for 7 yards.
Yep.
It's a great performance by the Lions.
Yeah, I mean, Aiden Hutchinson coming off a week where he gets 5 sacks and somehow doesn't get Defensive Player of the Week. It's like, I know you didn't win, but
are we blind?
That should just be a rule that you get it. The big win for them, 2-1. I'm always just curious. This team, we've seen the slow just maturation of them as a team. You're coming off a really disappointing loss. You're on the road, a tricky place like that. That's the type of win that a good team gets to just bounce back quickly. They do it. Jared Goff has an interception in this game, but otherwise was pretty efficient. 18 for 23, 199 yards. And yes, he did ice the game. I mean, the Cardinals hung around here. They kept getting stops late in the game. So the Lions had the ball, needing a first down to ice the game away.
High formation behind Goff. Now they shift. Single back is Montgomery. Skipper in there, 6th offensive lineman. Goff takes the snap, turns, gives. Nope, boots right, looks, being chased. Goff running, Goff to the 50, Goff to the 45. He slides for the first down. That is your ball game. Jared Goff doing it with his legs. We came in talking about Kyler Murray being a problem. Kyler Murray was going to break your heart with his legs. You know who just broke their hearts? Number 16, Jared Goff.
Jared Goff.
I think there was a tinge of sarcasm there. I just assumed it when he was comparing him to Kyler, but I don't know. That felt just some full-throated Jared Goff love. And why not? His long run, that might be his long run of the entire season. Good job by him. Sam Laporta left this game with a low ankle sprain, so that is something to keep an eye on. They have struggled to kind of develop the secondary receivers. I know Jameson Williams had a big couple of games, but he was totally absent in this one. 1 catch 9 yards, and otherwise it was quiet outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown with 75 yards and 2 touchdowns. Let's head to Seattle, where, yes, it was not Tua Tagovailoa at starting quarterback for the Dolphins, but the Seahawks don't care. The 12s just want to get a W.
Gino out of the shotgun. McIntosh in the game, and now he swings out to the left side. Gino steps up in the pocket, looks, holds, throws deep, got DK open, 30, 20, 15, 10, 5, runs away from Miami. Touchdown, Seahawks! A 71-yarder to DK. Gino waited, great route, and then DK just popped into the secondary open. Gino laid it up there, and the secondary never had a chance to catch DK.
Woo! When DK wins, he wins by so much. He had to wait for that ball just a little bit. Geno Smith gets it done. That was K-I-R-O. Steve Rabel on the call. The Seahawks win easy, 24-3. Wasn't a smooth game every minute for the Seahawks offense, but ultimately they got 21 first down and 370 yards. So all the 12s that I follow on Twitter that are honking about it not being too smooth, it's like, okay, I mean, let your defense win a game for you when you're going up against some bad quarterback play and get those early touchdowns. Seal it late with a really long 98-yard drive that Zach Charbonnet got them to 24 points on. He had a nice day, 91 yards and 2 touchdowns, Nick, and this one was never really in doubt. The Seahawks are 3-0.
Yeah, they're 3-0. Be happy with the Seahawks fans. It can't all be pretty. Sometimes you're going to get some, less attractive victories, but they all count the same, and it was a big one for you. You went and took care of business against a team rolling with a backup quarterback, and the main takeaway I had as soon as this game really reached the third quarter was, man, the value of a quarterback in the NFL remains so high, and when you lose that guy, it hurts so much. Now, Skylar Thompson got hurt and left this game. You ended up with Tim Boyle playing in the second half. But overall, you just see the offense and how they just take a few steps down without a guy like Tua back there. I mean, they get a pick off of Geno because he tries to get rid of the ball under pressure deep in his own. He was basically in his own end zone. It tips off of the intended receiver's hands. It gets caught by Kader Kohou for a pick, and they get 3 points out of it. And that was their entire offense for the day in terms of scoring. And that just kind of illustrates how much of an uphill climb you face when you lose a starting quarterback in this league and you roll with a guy like Skyler, who, look, Mike McDaniel spent the whole week talking him up. And I understand you're backing your quarterback because that's your guy for the foreseeable future. But, whew, rough experience to watch them struggle through this one, and a nice little victory for the Seahawks defense, holding them to 3 points.
Well, one of those 12s thought Tim Boyle looked a lot more comfortable, actually, when he came in. Would you say
crazy
that,
because he didn't look very good either.
Okay, would you say that's accurate? And yeah, tell me a little bit about like the Seahawks defensive performance in this game, because you do see them doing some creative stuff. There was the way they played defense only rushing 1 on the Hail Mary, which was kind of fun. Well, Mike McDonald is kind of the mad scientist going up against the other mad scientist, Mike McDaniel here, and clearly I know Skylar Thompson hurts them, but like, tell me what you saw out of the Seahawks defense.
A lot of not even trying to get after the quarterback. They only blitzed 5 times all day. Their pressure rate was 38.5%, but it was 15 pressures. So they were getting them organically and not through the blitz. And a ton of sitting in zone coverage. 84.6% of pass dropbacks, zone coverage. They were basically asking Skyler to pick their defense apart and daring him to do it, and he couldn't do it. And just getting the job done on that side of the ball, which, look, in these instances, that's what you're asked to do. Now, rushing 1 on a Hail Mary, that actually is the exception to my never rush 3 rule. We can roll with that. That's fine.
Well, it's not 3, it's 1.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, 3 or less, that's fine.
And if I'm Skylar Thompson in that situation, I'm content to just see how long the play can last. But ultimately, they really got nothing out of it.
5-on-1.
Yeah, just nothing. Absolutely nothing out of that. But that's really how it's been. Like the protection, clearly, on a one-man pass rush, better than it's been for the Dolphins all season. Because it wasn't good when Tua was in. And here is the Seahawks able to just rush 4 and get consistent pressure throughout the game, where the Dolphins were never in this game. They were never, even Geno had 2 interceptions. Of course, that one is, he's going to get tackled for a safety. He's flipping Zach Charbonnet gets both hands on the ball. That's not on Geno. But just a serviceable game. Geno,
maybe that one was a little. I'm going to give it
half,
60%.
Okay,
yeah.
60.
I mean, sometimes it sucks. It's so annoying to have to take a safety. I can't imagine what it would feel like to be an NFL quarterback in any respect. But I can just imagine that it would be like the most annoying thing. Like, I just can't take this safety. And you're right, you got it out to him, but that was a crazy decision. Look, Geno's been under pressure a lot this season, 43% in this game. That's a really high number. He actually, other than the interception, dealt 8 for 13 for 148 yards against the pressure, 11 yards per attempt. So it was like he made a lot of good plays. That's just been how they've had to win. I think they're 3-0. They've had a fortunate schedule. It is what it is. You got to just take advantage of it. They got that close Patriots win. You beat Bo Nix on opening day with a little bit of a comeback, and you beat Skylar Thompson. And yeah, the weird confidence, I don't think it was just coach speak. I think they were really confident. Even like Dolphins fans and the media coverage, like I think they thought like this team is better than they were. And I thought they had a lot of problems going into this game that weren't Tua related. That's it. So if you then remove the quarterback from a defense that's like, maybe it's average, we'll see. Like maybe it's below average, and an offense which had some issues beforehand, it's concerning. They're at 1-2. We'll see, but it's starting to feel like it'll be a 2-team race in the AFC East. Little earlier to get that. By the way, remember back on our preview show, Patrick Claybon, we all, me, you, and Steve Weiss, said we're not worried about all going down with the ship. We're all going to take the exact same team, even though they were only 4.5-point favorites. And there was a bigger favorite in Tampa. Bucks lost. Oh, there was a bigger favorite in Vegas. Lost. Bigger favorite, even the San Francisco 49ers playing the Rams. They lost too. We avoided all those landmines. We picked the Seahawks, and you never had to sweat it. So good job by us.
And that's what we do, Greg.
That's right.
We live, we breathe, we obtain sustenance to provide our bodies with what we need to survive. And yes, we got knocked out of our own survival.
No, we're starting over.
It's a new one.
It's now new, and actually, now that it worked out well, I think me, you, and Steve should be one person, and we'll make a joint decision every week since we're on fire doing it.
Because that's what we do.
Yes,
we survive together.
We are like Voltron, and unfortunately, we're about to lose our arm and our left hip because Patrick Claybon will not be with us to cover Sunday Night Football, but Shook and I will be right back after the break to do so. And thank you, Patrick. I'm going to give you know how Tom Brady gives a grade for all these passes? I'm giving you an A+.
Thanks, Greg.
There we go.
Enjoy Sunday night.
Cousins will be under center on 4th down and a yard to go. Long count. They give it off. Bashan Robinson hit in the backfield. He goes down. Kansas City holds on downs again. Nick Bolton scrapes to the outside and makes the hit. And Kansas City defensively holds on downs. 4th down at the 6 and now the 13.
22-17, the Chiefs defense gets it done once again. Mitch Holthus from WDAF. Familiar storyline, isn't it? The Chiefs defense winning the game at the end. The Chiefs offense not being fully in gear, but making just enough plays. And yes, the Atlanta Falcons and Kirk Cousins just playing weird games. That's what Kirk Cousins is going to do. I know, Nick Shook, you did not like the play call. That was 4th and inches for the Chiefs with about a minute to go, and they throw it outside left to Bijan Robinson. I believe Kirk Cousins changed into that play. It looked like he changed the play at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, anytime you run it wide on 4th and short, I know you can't sneak Kirk there. You think that's not going to be an option. You're always going to put yourself in a bad spot. Because you're essentially giving yourself a longer path to get past the line to gain. And the Chiefs, sniffed it out like it was nothing. Nick Bolton making a great play after coming back from leaving with an injury earlier in the game. Big moment for the Chiefs defense. It's the Chiefs defense that we've seen do this time and time again over the last few years. It's a big reason why they won the Super Bowl last year. We could talk about that over and over again, as we have many times. But my issue is that drive, and it's the previous drive when they're in a goal-to-go situation and they throw it up to Kyle Pitts, but Kirk doesn't put it high enough to take advantage of Pitts' height. Yeah, it could have been PI there, probably should have been. And then they call a similar play on 4th down. I just felt like they didn't give themselves a lot of winnable situations with the play calling when they needed a touchdown in those last couple of drives, and this is the result.
Well, I think you pointed out there, though, I mean, if the play call was bad on the run, but the play call is bad on the pass, it's like you got to just execute on some level.
Yeah.
To me, like that throw, you're right, to Pitts was a bad throw, and everyone was like, oh, that was a bad no call. I guess it was a bad no call. It was. But that throw made it was just like, I don't know if if
the guy's big. You drafted him because he's an athlete.
You just wonder. I just don't think Kirk is as accurate as he usually is, and he's so good in general at making decisions, and he's played quarterback for so long that it still looks like a version of Kirk Cousins, and he's getting it done in some way. But that was just a bad throw. There was a couple other bad throws in the night. Now the 50-yarder to Pitts, he put that out there. That's a nice play. I'm not saying it's not all there, but sometimes coming off these injuries with your plant leg, just the accuracy is not as consistent, because the throw to London on 4th down was also curious, but you put that more on execution to me than the play call, because you're running those two plays back to back. Algier has a chance to try to get the first down on 3rd and 1 or 2, and he doesn't get it. It's a no gain on 3rd and 1 from the 13. That's running right. You lost your right tackle in this game, Caleb McGarry. You lost your center in this game, Drew Dahlman. So that's a big deal. And so then it's 4th down. Where are they going to run? Okay, let's go to the left side where our left, where we're healthy. It's a play Nick Bolton said after the game that they felt like they gave up earlier in the game, and he identified it quickly. But you know who else identified it quickly? Like every other member of the Chiefs. I know Bolton got the glory there, but like everyone won. And it's a game of trenches, and Kirk Cousins faced so much more pressure than Patrick Mahomes did in this game. And ultimately, like, the Chiefs ran the ball well enough that the running games were almost a draw. And that's a big advantage for the Chiefs, that they were able to pass protect their guy much better than the Falcons were, who couldn't identify blitzes, and Spags is going crazy at the end, and Kirk Cousins is a pinata. And I'm saying all this making it sound like it's a blowout. No, these two teams look pretty even, but that was the difference.
Yeah, and that kind of makes me rethink what my next point was going to be, because I am not a fan of bubble screens, okay? Like, I just think it's a low potential play, but I understand the use, and I understand why they were peppering them in a lot, because if you're facing that much pressure, if you don't trust your offensive line to protect your quarterback well enough, then play the perimeter and try to make a play there. But in those situations late in the game, it kind of became predictable, and they were all snuffed out pretty quickly. So you're kind of in a tough spot. Like, if you're not protecting well, everything's going to get a little bit harder. They didn't run the ball well as a team, like, statistically. It's 63 combined yards between Algier and Bijan Robinson. But at the same time, like, maybe try to get him the ball in space in a different situation. I don't know. There was just a lot of, as you watch the flow of those last couple drives, I just didn't feel good about where they were going. And they got bailed out a lot in that last drive because of a bunch of penalties in the Chiefs, and moved them down within range to score. But ultimately, the same gut feeling that I had about their play calling flow is what bared out, with the fact that they weren't able to get the job done in the end.
Right. So to back it up, the score is 14-10 late in the second quarter. And then I think it was a big moment in the game. They get a rusher on Cousins. He's hit while he throws. I think that was Tershawn Wharton, who's had a nice start to this season, also had a great week 1. The ball floats up. The Chiefs intercept it, throw a lateral. They get a field goal before halftime, makes it 14-13. Then you come out of the break. The Falcons ran 3 plays in the third quarter. 3 plays. Meanwhile, the Chiefs go 11 plays for 67 yards. They kind of have their old bugaboo and get stuck on the goal line. They blow a 1st and goal from the 3, where it's like Carson Steele direct snap, Carson Steele -2, and that's negative. And then they get the field goal, 3 and out. They go down with a long touchdown drive. Travis Kelce finally makes a few plays in this season. Rashee Rice, who had just a monster night, has a couple big gains. They have a nice play call that gets Juju wide open for his only catch of the night, and you get the touchdown, 22-14 lead. And yet, then in the fourth quarter, like, the Chiefs go 3 and out a couple times there and keep giving the Falcons chances to win that game. And ultimately, Kirk Cousins had 2 chances in the red zone to take the lead or to win the game in the final 5 minutes. And both times the protection really falls short. And this Chiefs defense and Spagnuolo just finds a different way to do it every week. They don't need Patrick Mahomes to be Patrick Mahomes, because he hasn't really been Patrick Mahomes quite yet this season. 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions on the season. That's not really a Patrick Mahomes type of stat line.
Yeah, but it's a mark of a champion, a defense that comes through in the clutch in the fourth quarter when you have to prevent a touchdown to win the game. When you go from an 8-point lead to a 5-point lead and you have to get a stop, and they get multiple stops. It also reminded me a lot of the end of the week 2 game between the Lions and the Buccaneers, where the Lions had a couple chances to go down and score, and they couldn't get it done either. And kind of indicative of what we've seen around the league, especially in the passing game over the first 3 weeks, not so much this week as the first 2, where teams get within range and they just can't get it done. I wonder if the Falcons iron that out. I know Kirk said last week after that comeback win over the Eagles, it's still a lot of new. And in pressure situations like this, the fact that it was new kind of hurt them. I also thought it was very interesting that they went tempo a little bit in the fourth quarter because that's where their strength was in that last minute drive against the Eagles the week prior. But overall, the result is still the same. You're 1-2, which is still better than 0-3, but it
just looked like every Kirk Cousins game I've ever seen. The games with the Commanders, or Washington rather, back in the day, the games with the Vikings for all those years now, and now the Falcons. Like, Kirk Cousins brings his own style of game, which is just a whole lot of insanity, and it ends in some crazy way, and there's a whole lot of free rushers on the blitz. That does seem to be a trend, and Kirk just getting absolutely waylaid. I mean, he got hammered in this game. He was 6 for 13 against the blitz for 57 yards, 4.4 yards per attempt, 14 for 16 for 173 when he wasn't getting blitzed. So that is a problem. The injuries are a problem. And Chiefs fans, I'm not just hating because we're bored of you, but it hasn't been a great 3-0, and none of that matters. They're going to figure out the things that are wrong, and they're stacking wins along the way. But it's not just me who thinks that. I mean, they were 16th in DVOA heading into this week. I bet they don't climb that much in this performance because they weren't that dominant. This looked like 2 even teams, but they don't make the mental errors, and they get the win, and they play the Chargers next week. Who knows if Justin Herbert's going to be in that game? We will see. That's it for week 3 here on the Sunday night recap. Shooky, I'm going to do the thing that I always don't like what they do in shows or podcasts or any final thoughts, Nick Shook. I just wanted to hear from you one more time.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Chiefs, their start actually kind of tracks with what they've done the last couple of years. If you look at their schedule from last year, they won 23-20, 27-20, 19-8. They had a blowout win over the Bears and a close win over the Jags. This is par for the course for them. They've won the Super Bowl the last 2 years. I wouldn't be concerned.
Yeah, it is who they are and who we are. Nick Shook is men who like to do podcasts after primetime games. So we will be back after the Monday night doubleheader. Nick at night. Mr. Shook and I will recap Bills, Jags, and Bengals, Commanders. That should be fun. Until then, after this week 3, we know football is back.